Good evening, everyone. And we have the wonderful Anya Wig with us. And she's the co founder of Her Huck. And she is a US Department alumna and was a sushi scholar. Tell us more about you, Anya.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here. I'm Anya. I run my own nonprofit. It's called Her Hug. We work on gender equality. So essentially, we work on menstrual hygiene management, financial literacy, and legal literacy. And we're also trying to slightly start working on public policy and the gender intersection and youth intersection along with it. Other than that, I've gone back to school. So I'm in law school right now. I've just started my second year. And before that, I was in LSR. I did history honors from there. Then I did a postgraduate diploma in international humanitarian law, human rights law, and refugee law. Along with all of this, I am a content creator on LinkedIn. So I'm a top voice for social impact. And I've given 3 TED Talks. And yes, that's a little about me. Everything else is not that relevant, so we can skip it.
That is just absolutely amazing. So, first question that I have for you is what inspired you to become the gender right advocate?
I think for me, it was very personal because I grew up in a household of women with my mother and my sister. And for me, all of these things were very personal. And I think I was lucky to grow up in a household without any stereotypes, without any of the struggles and discriminations that people face. But while, of course, growing up, I realized the world outside is very different. And the reality is very different outside. The way that people feel, the way that they behave with each other, the way that women are looked at, and how they're always looked at as someone of someone, like a mother, sister, daughter, and it's never to do with an individual personality. So I guess the way that I look at women is as leaders, and I just wanted the world to look at them as the way that I look at them. And yeah, that's I think that's what started it. And here I am, and I'm sure many people relate to it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'll while we were introducing you, I thought we will introduce the community as well. So we are a community. We are called the heroines, and we are just trying to help each and every woman who's working or who may not be working, and just thinking about starting a career after a break maybe, or she's just a housewife and she wants to start something of her own. We are trying to help each and every strata of this woman. We are just trying to become that bridge between her and her dreams and aspirations, and that is why we call our community as heroines. Being a women community, we thought that it is really important and essential for us to talk about women's safety, and that is the reason we thought who better than you to have with us and just explore around the topic of women's safety and security in the present day scenario. So, what do you think has the technology really impacted the women's safety today?
I would say yes and no, because it's hard for me to give a simple answer. But what I would say is, let's focus at the yes and the positives first. I feel
Yeah.
like because of technology, I think it's uh, a lot easier for people to reach out to others. So, for example, we've seen stories of people using the Me Too movement to talk about harassment that they've been through, especially in the professional sphere, which has given them so much confidence to come out, talk about the things that have happened to them, which is also like a domino effect. And so many other women have come out and talked about it because they saw women were talking about it. So you have a movement such as that. And of course, with the online world, a lot of times people, when they are in a place where they don't have help, or they don't have family support, or in fact they're facing sort of harassment from family, friends, or stay in an area where they don't really have anybody they personally know, I think the internet is a great place for that. uh, but the other hand, I feel like, while of course the internet has pushed and helped people to ask for help and reach out for help, I think at the same time it's also made a lot of spaces unsafe. um, we're just seeing the rise of the internet, not in terms of course, it's been here for a while now, was the explosion of the internet in terms of access, in terms of the things that are available on the internet, the kind of content that we see. Obviously, a lot of it is regulated, but we know about the dark web. We know the different types of pornography that's available. We also know that in the meta world, so many other cases of harassment that are happening, right? So I just feel like, while of course internet is great, I also feel like a lot of times there are evils on the internet as well, which need a lot of regulation from platforms, but also from users that are using these platforms.
Right. So, through your initiative, do you try and drive these kind of safety measures for, people who are using online platform for any kind of information, like you are updating your Aadhaar card for several purposes, and then nowadays everybody is so fond of the Instagram pictures and Instagram reels. So, do you also promote a way in which girls can be a little careful when they are sharing their personal information?
So digital safety is not something that we very actively work on, but what we do a lot of times is talking about safety indirectly on the internet. So, and also I feel like safety is an issue which is intricately related to the way that you look at women or the portrayal of women in media, etc. So I remember we've done a lot of campaigns where we've talked about the stereotypes around surrounding women on the internet or in movies, in songs, and so many other platforms to make people understand that this is not how you need to look at a woman or the way that they're portrayed, right? The other thing that we try to do is when we go offline and take sessions, while of course we teach them and train them about menstrual hygiene, what we try to also train them a little about is their rights around a lot of other things. So all in all, I think we advocate for safety in a lot of different ways, but there are incredible organizations that are working on safety of women specifically.
Awesome, awesome. That is a wonderful thought. And apart from this, we would also like to know what is your thought on the role of community, like we are as heroines. What is our role when you say on promoting women's safety and security? What are the couple of tips that you can give us to, organizations who are working with women, and actually we saw a lot of, unrest in the community post the Calcutta incident. A lot of the women were vocal by saying, "Hey, I mean, I'm scared. I'm working at night." People working in the daytime also are equally scared with whatever has happened. I mean, that unfortunate incident. But do you feel that communities can make a difference? And if they can, what are the certain ways in which we can really help um, promote women's safety amongst our members?
So I think the role of community is essential, right? And I'll try to break it down into things that I can think of at the top of my head. One is definitely response channels. So if somebody's gone through something, I think a community can be super helpful in letting them know of the response channels, but also bringing those response channels to them. It's very easy and very easy for people who are away from the situation to give guidance on, oh, you should have done that, you could have complained there, you can do this and that. But a lot of people who go through any sort of harassment or any sort of safety hazard don't have the mindset or in fact the resources to be able to go to that place, right? Or to have lawyers or to have access to,
True. Correct.
maybe even have the right mindset to go to a police station. While of course the law provides that if at any point a woman who's gone through something like that, the police can come to their place, come take a confession. There are so many things that we don't know of, right? So community, of course, can help with response channels, bringing maybe pro bono lawyers between from the community, maybe people who can tell them about their rights, maybe also response channels in terms of amplification of what has happened on social media. Because like you said, right, with the kind of protests that are happening right now across the country, while I'm in full support of this. I just feel like these are not incidents in isolation, right? This is not something that's happening for the first time. So we can't just have a one-time social media campaign or hope that this campaign is going to only help this case. What we want is consistent efforts by this entire community of people to constantly demand for better safety, not just as doctors, but also in other professions. And the
Correct.
other thing that I think safety can also like a community can do for safety is, I think, just a safe space, right? There's so many people who are not ready to reach the space of using a response channel, or they're not mentally prepared to want to take that step. And I feel like sometimes all they want to do is share. And I feel and I see there are so many Facebook groups of single women or women from whatever age group, and they keep their identity anonymous, but do talk a lot about what they're going through, what kind of feelings they're having. And there are people from within the same age group or similar experiences that give them guidance, right? And it's not just individual people and people you don't know, but even if you know your friends, etc., they themselves act as a community. So I feel like, yes, of course, you have these response channels and these things that a community can help you with, but I really feel like emotional support and well-being is another great thing which is important for the safekeeping of anybody that a community can help.
Correct. Very true. And I think at the same time, what a community can do is to give her that safe space to voice out what she wants, which is, I think, a little difficult when we come across any other way of voicing out what we want to say. So probably communities are the best places and safer places where people can voice out, like, hey, I feel bad about this, or this is not going in the right direction, or hey, can we come together and change what is happening, right? So
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, so that is what. And tell me something. What is the biggest challenge that right now we are facing when we talk of women's safety? Nirbhaya happened, right? After that, there was too much voice. A lot of organizations came up. A lot of efforts are going around. Then again, Calcutta happens, right? So, what is that few steps that is lagging when we talk about women's safety? And what do you think is the topmost issue that should be addressed in order to, take the first step towards, not getting these kind of incidents coming into, not existing at all?
So I think I'll say two things, right? And I really feel like what's lacking is the kind of awareness around how these things aren't isolated events and happen across the years. Of course, there was Nirbhaya, but between Nirbhaya and this medical case that's happened in Calcutta, there are so many other cases that have happened. There was the Kathua rape case. There are so many other rape cases. In fact, NCRB data, the last time that I read it said that in India, there's a rape that happens every 6 minutes. But we don't come to
Yes.
know about a lot of these cases because there's just not enough media attention. And a lot of us would have seen that in the past few weeks since the RG Medical School case has come up, a lot of our news feeds are full of information about rape cases. But is it that rape has suddenly gone up? No, it's just that media houses have now started to realize that TRP is going up and people are searching for these words, which is why they should cover them. So all of your three independent pillars of democracy can't work on isolated events and cannot stop existing in the middle unless something extremely heinous happens. And they can't always put the blame on citizens to protest for things or to demand for things. As media houses, as the judiciary, as executive, and as the legislature, it is their responsibility to work on these things and make sure such heinous crimes don't happen. So I feel like of course, we need to realize that media, of course, plays a really big role in holding the government accountable, those who are in power accountable, but also awareing a large uh, mass of the population about what's happening. And to make sure that, okay, you know what, people should know that if they do something like this is something that can probably happen to them. These are the kind of punishments that are given, or this is the kind of price that you pay, and just the kind of representation like character blaming, victim blaming, all of these things needs to stop. And only when we have an unbiased representation in the media would our mindset also change. That's number one. The second that I feel is the fact that the Justice Verma committee after the Nirbhaya case also sent out a lot of recommendations, right? But not a lot of them were taken in. We still have laws that are vague. We still have loopholes. I feel like while I really believe the law is amazing in India, and I feel like they've worked really hard to make sure that there are safety protocols for women and all the marginalized communities. I think the age that we live in, especially the digital age that we live in today, there needs to be a relooking of the law. And I also feel like there was a suggestion given in the Justice Verma report, which talked about how rape also has to be looked at different degrees and different punishments need to be there, because a lot of times these cases are stretched on for many years. And what ends up happening, because the punishment is so strong, these cases are stretched out for many years. So while of course all different types of rapes are rape, but they also need to figure out the different kinds of punishments and make sure these cases are actually solved, not solved sooner, but justice is provided much sooner than pushing families to go through so much for so many years. And I think the last thing that I would probably say is just the fact that citizens themselves need to make sure that we're not just protesting for rape, which is so heinous, but every time there is somebody who does any sort of harassment against a woman, whether it's voyeurism, whether it's stalking, whether it's sending unsolicited images, all need to be reported and some action needs to be taken, because and this is what I feel, right? People go through these different levels to reach that final stage of extreme sexual harassment. And unless you start punishing them and holding them accountable for these lesser evils that we may call, they will inevitably reach a stage where they feel like they're not accountable. So I feel like every step of the way, they need to be held accountable.
Very right, very right, very right. I think that is the right way the entire society will move forward. Every little incident that happens around you and with you should be reported. And with this, I was just enticed to ask, uh, so bystanders intervention, how important is that? So when I say a bystanders intervention, means there is a crime which is happening right in front of you, but instead of intervening for any reason that you have, we just watch, or we may just heinously record. People do that, right? So, just because we just discussed, so what do you think? What is your take on how important is the bystanders, intervention when something like this is happening or about to happen?
I think it's extremely essential, right? And I think I recently saw this um, video that was floating on the internet where an act of sexual harassment was happening on the roadside and people were taking videos and there was nothing else that happened. Uh, while I continue to say that bystander role is very important, our institutions, and I always don't always just talk about those in power, right? Even our schools, even our colleges, even professional spaces lack training their employees, their students, their colleagues in bystander and what a role a bystander can play, right? We rarely taught things like CPR unless, of course, you have some sort of medical training. I don't think at least my school never taught me CPR. My
Nobody.
school also never taught me what to do if you see an accident happening. All of these things you're just not told about. A lot of times you pick up these things from the internet or random videos, or
So,
maybe you see it happening, but in a lot of cases where bystanders even want to help, they just don't know what to do because their normal response is just of shock. The other thing that I would say is we have an incredible law, which is the Good Samaritan law, right? We need to make sure that people know more about the Good Samaritan law and aren't scared to come forward without this entire idea that they would need some sort of legal protection, or they will be incapacitated to help the person, or something would happen to them if they're supposed to help, right? This law covers all of that. So I just feel like institutions need to train the people who are a part of these institutions about what bystanders can do. And it's not just in terms of safety or sexual harassment, right? Generally, if we're more aware as individuals, I feel like we're better as a society. If you know that people around you will take action, the perpetrator is very very less likely to do something. And when you're in a surrounding, in a setting where people aren't going to bat an eye, you're more likely to commit a crime. So I just feel like if you bring together a community, train them and let them know this is what you can do, it's like a training of trainers, because it's just something that never goes to waste, right? You can always tell other people, train your family members, and if schools start doing this, then there's nothing like it.
correct, correct. I think we have to start pretty early when we talk about a bystander intervention. And mm, I think more important is that, like similarly, when we work with the marginalized ladies, and we talk to them about there is some kind of a gender based violence happening, and we tell them, why don't you call the police station? So the poor lady, she thinks when she calls the police station, the police would come and immediately pick her husband and put him behind the bars, which is not the scene. That is not the way it happens. And it is not there, but a lot of people around us also, they do not know that in a case of a domestic violence, if she gives a call to the nearest police station, what happens after that, right? So I think very correctly, if all these things become, I would say rather become a part of a small curriculum which should be taught at
Yes.
at a school level or at a college level, to make them understand that how important is to raise your voice. One is raise your voice when you feel uncomfortable about anything. Two is, if you see somebody raising a voice, what should you be doing and what should you not be doing? It's very very important. I think that is something that that should be openly discussed probably. So are you thinking of coming up with something around a bystander intervention in your program, or what do you suggest? What kind of a campaign can, as a community, we run so that we create that kind of awareness?
I unfortunately don't have the capacity or the skill set to take bystander trainings. But what I would say is there are a lot of incredible organizations that do it, right? So my hope is that I, of course, as an individual, and I'm able to partner with them and learn from them. But I also feel like your bystander intervention is a stage that you reach eventually in life. But before that, there's a lot to do with your mindset and the way that you look at, like I said, the way you look at women, the kind of gender relations and sexual relations that are there. And what we try to tell people is about consent, what it means. We try to explain it to them in very simple terms. And I really feel like, and I always advocate for something like this, is comprehensive sexuality education in schools and colleges. And I feel like your bystander program is an extension of something like that, right? When you're telling people about something as simple as consent, letting them know about their bodies, letting them know about different things that you need to know about sexual relations when you reach that age, all of these other things, I feel like, especially bystander intervention that comes around sexual harassment, is an extension of this program. Because when you know what consent is, you also know when it's being violated and when you need to come in. I also feel like a lot of people turn a blind eye, especially in this group of friends, etc., or colleges, and we hear of so many of these cases, right? And we read so many articles, etc., that something happened in a college, something happened at a party, something happened at a concert, and people turn to look away because all of this is normalized, right? So you not only have to give them the tools to sort of counter this, but also the understanding of knowing that, okay, listen, this is something that you need to counter.
Very true. Very true. I think these are a couple of important things. Anybody who, comes across this should be ready with this kind of, tools and knowledge that what happens next. Or should I be doing this or shouldn't I be doing this? So these things should be, I think this is something that as an initiative, I don't know, maybe we can start or we together can start, but somebody should be starting this so that, this information is disseminated in the larger audience.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's very, very important. I suppose I think this is one thing which is I think the call of an hour, so that all of us start doing that. So another thing that comes in my mind, I would like your opinion on this is, um, a lot of us who listen to the media, to the reports, to read the newspaper and so many things, I would just put them into the urban population maybe. Do you think that our fellow late friends, our women, fellow women who are at the village level, how do we pass on this information to them? What is the kind of activities that should be designed so that whatever is happening around us or whatever we are talking on the internet today, that might not reach them. So how is it that we pass on this information, disseminate this information to them as well? Because they are also somehow, a lot of times they don't even report an incident like this, right? So how do we bridge this kind of a gap where the internet or maybe the media is not basically active in those parts? Yeah.
Um, I would say I think we need to look at the platform that we want to communicate this through. So, of course, if you talk about how do you do these one-on-one person trainings or tell them about it in person, right? I really feel like we have a very strong network of ASHA workers across the country, and they can be used for much more than what they're doing. Of course, they also need to have much more rights, and the kind of money that they get needs to be increased, their salaries, their rights, etc., needs to be made better. But you have a really strong network of ASHA workers across the country that, of course, are talking about health and social determinants of it and so many other things along with it. I feel like if they were to take modules and trainings, and even Anganwadi workers, right? If all of these were to come together where you've already built a big system and a very in-depth system of these people that are present across the country, they can definitely help sort of push for these trainings, push for social sort of re-questioning social norms that are already present in society. The other that I would say is, of course, we have a lot of nonprofits that are working on different issues. You have organizations like Breakthrough that are having amazing campaigns. You have the Gandhi Fellows doing other things in villages. There are a lot of programs. I just feel like we know a little less about them. So if there was more sort of community support, more knowledge about these programs, and again, like I said, right, if you do have a comprehensive sexuality curriculum in schools and colleges, that should be transferred to rural areas as well. It can't just be something that you do in cities, especially tier one, tier two cities, right? It needs to be something that is seeping down to the lowest and the smallest of places in and across the country. So, and that can only happen if it's a part of the curriculum, because otherwise, just like today, different schools talk about these topics differently. So to ensure uniformity, I think these are the three, four things that can happen.
Awesome. Awesome. That was wonderful. It was such a pleasure talking to you. Is there anything that you would like to give our audience as one takeaway from this special workshop, which is like a bridge between a community, and how can a community, help in sustainable efforts towards women's safety?
I think the only thing that I would say is, a lot of times we think that to do good work or to take to help someone, we have to take this really big step, or we have to take a lot of times. But a lot of times, it's just doing the smallest of things. And like you talked about bystander interventions, right? Bystander intervention shouldn't just be a thing where you see an accident happening, even if it's any sort of soft sexism, if it's inequality of pay at the workplace, if it's harassment at the workplace, if it's different relationships at the dining table at your house. It could be anything. If you start small, you can make a big difference. And this is what I tell everybody. So I don't think you need to go out of the way, do something extraordinary, or take out this tremendous amount of time. I just feel like if you're able to question social norms, the dynamics at home and outside home, I think you've done your bit.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's very, very true. Thank you so much, Anya, for sparing time, for talking to us on women's safety and security. And you are truly an ambassador for Heroines. We value you as our member. And anybody who would just like to join Heroines, please comment down so that we can get in touch with you. Thank you, Anya. Thank you so much for giving time to us.
Thank you for having me and making me a part of this community. And in case, like Suruchi already mentioned, in case you want to join, you want to know something more, feel free to reach out to us on DM as well, and just comment, and somebody from the team will get back to you. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye.